Welcome to the Divine Lifestyles Podcast. I'm your host, Tara Magalski. Together with my guest experts, I cover topics ranging from cutting-edge healing modalities to hormonal harmony, to nutrition and plant medicine, to mindfulness and spirituality. My goal is to educate and inspire so you can create your own divine lifestyle. It's time to dive inward, rewire your brain, and heal from the inside out. I've got an exciting offer for all of my listeners. The free Divine Daily Practices video series. Get simple practices to release anxious thoughts, sharpen your intuition, and rewire your nervous system in less than 10 minutes a day. Come on over to my website at divinelifestyles.com/divine daily practices. And over the next week, you'll receive a complimentary self-care system to drop into your authentic self and activate your divine intuitive wisdom. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Divine Lifestyles Podcast. I'm your host, Tara Magalski, and today I'm with the beautiful Danielle Gates, CEO of Yinsa and Live Yinsa Collective, which we're going to dive all into her work. She is an educator, an entrepreneur, a mother, a world traveler, might I add, a podcaster, reality TV personality, and not always in that order. Thank you so much for being here. I know that we've been manifesting this for a really long time. So thank you.
A year.
Right. We actually even did this once before, then didn't really have good audio. So guys, we're back at it. We are persevering. But I know that a lot of people know you from social media. They know you from 90 Day Fiance, but you have had a very, very successful career and a huge life before you even went on TV. And I would really love for you to share more about your work that you're doing now and just a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I guess my first career after, restauranting through college was as an educator. I was a teacher in New York for almost 20 years. And then in 2018, I founded Yinsa. Yoga was my escape from just the reality of day-to-day life in New York. And I did my first yoga teacher training in 2014. And then in 2018, I decided I wanted to bring it to more people, kind of marry the worlds of education and yoga. And I wasn't really interested at the time in just being a studio teacher. I really wanted to lead workshops and kind of more comprehensive programs just because I had so much experience in curriculum design. So Yinsa, what started as an Ayurvedic skincare brand and a bunch of workshops to teach Ayurveda, it has turned into a much larger retreat company with an online membership platform. I offer private coaching. I run retreats around the world. And now I'm starting to teach courses around how others can join the team and lead retreats with me.
I love that. And now, where are you living? Because I know that you left Florida and you've moved back to the island.
No, I was living in Dominican Republic for about a year, and then I went to Florida to take care of my grandmother. When she passed this past October, I decided to come back. So I'm in Cana now. It's really beautiful. It's basically Florida. It's the same. It really, it's a lot more culturally diverse, I think, and it's a much slower pace, and I love that about it. But it's a beautiful place to live.
And you and your husband are back, and things are looking beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we actually just started a tour company together. So we're running tours in Punta, Cana, and La Romana and Bali.
I saw that. I got your email blast. That's amazing. I mean, it goes so well with what you're doing already with retreats that it's just a nice vertical offering, right? So, okay, well, let's just crack into it. What do you got coming up? Because I know you got something happening in Bali, and then we're going to dive into a little bit more of your Ayurvedic background.
Of course. So I have a retreat coming up in Bali. It's called Heal. Originally, it was connected to a course that I taught called Heal, Transform, Trauma.
Yes, I know, girl. You came in my collective, and taught it.
Yeah, I remember that. And I actually met my clients 3 years ago. That Pavita, she was lovely. But now it's kind of transitioned, I guess, into more of like a self-healing retreat. I think when I first started teaching this particular type of retreat, it was a lot about bringing in all these outside practitioners. And what I found was that a lot of people just keep running from thing to thing to thing to try and heal. And they're getting exhausted and creating more trauma by running around all over the place. And without doing any one thing really consistently, it ends up kind of making people feel a little bit scattered. And so I've kind of changed that retreat a little bit. And now it's all about teaching people self-healing modalities like tapping and Reiki and japa meditation and yoga practices you can do on your own. So this one is really focusing on how, can we heal ourselves?
I
Can you
love that.
help
The
yourself?
medicine is always within, right? We are the medicine.
Yeah.
Um, so you've got that coming up in Bali, and
Yeah.
that's in August, right?
Yeah. August 1st through 10th. I have 2 spots left. I'm very excited.
Oh my God. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Bali? I actually, if I can make it happen, I'll let you know.
I would love
Bali is far, but like perhaps it could always happen. I'll leave it there. I actually just got home from a beautiful solo retreat in Ashland, Oregon, and then Mount Shasta. So I did a medicine retreat out there with my shaman, and it was like amazing. But
awesome.
just rooting back in. So I want to hear a little bit more about what you're building with Yinsa. And I know, are you still working on your apparel line?
My apparel line, I kind of had to shelve because of manufacturing issues. It's kind of been a disaster, especially
Yes.
this year. And to be honest, a product-based business, while I'm based here, is really challenging. So we kind of put that to the side. I really love teaching, and like so much went into building this apparel line, and there were so many moving pieces and so many things that were disastrous over and over and over again. And I very much listen to like signs, I try not to force anything. And
Yeah.
so even though like I had a lot of interest and I spent $12,000 designing lots of apparel, I was like, there's no amount of money that's worth my piece. And so I kind of had to put that to the side. So, instead I just decided to expand my retreat platform and really bring in, more different types of practices. So you were talking about Ayurveda. We're going to lead a Panchakarma retreat in January in India, which I'm really
Oh
excited
my
about.
God. Yes.
So I'm really trying to, I don't know if I would call it franchising, but like I want to bring a lot more people onto the team in a more permanent way so
Mm,
that it's not just like me and whatever practitioner I bring on for that particular retreat, but we actually build our team so that we are co-creating 7 retreats every year,
I
through
love that.
the lens of the chakra system and kind of picking something to help us get through all the energetic work.
So I did an amazing Panchakarma in the Blue Mountains, and
Mm.
my next move is to go to India.
Yeah.
So we'll have to keep chatting about that because that's very much aligned for where I see my next offerings. Actually, my next retreat is going to be in Mount Shasta because that was just one of the most profound experiences that I've had. But I got very called to go to India.
Yeah.
So tell us more about what you have coming up with the Pachi Karma cleanse. I'm obsessed with Pachi Karma.
Yeah.
So
So Panchakarma is basically, people call it a detox because I think they lack
mhm,
the vocabulary to describe it. But I actually think it's more of like a detox and a nourishing simultaneously. Because when you think about Ayurveda, you're talking about the 5 elements, which you can talk about in Ayurveda, you can talk about in astrology, you can talk about in a number of different ways. And the way that I look at Ayurveda and astrology is very similarly. Like we all are born onto this earth with a certain amount or balance of the elements in our body. And based on your lifestyle, especially now, especially in a tech world, especially with, what's happening in our political climate, like there's a lot of fire and air in a lot of people. There's a lot of overabundance of that. And especially with the air element, when you have an excess of vata or the air element, it pushes all of the other doshas. So we're finding that people are just really imbalanced. We're spending way too much time on computers, way too much time with this very heavy object on our cervical spine, looking forward, a lot of time anxious, with our shoulders at our ears. And that creates a lot of tension and a lot of buildup of elements in the body. And so what the Panchakarma retreat does is, you work with an Ayurvedic doctor to do blood work and all different types of assessments, looking at the whites of the eyes, looking at the fingernail beds, looking at your speaking patterns and how you breathe and how you walk and all of those things, and kind of figuring out, okay, where do we see an excess? Where do we see a deficiency? And what are the herbal treatments, the body work, the meditations that are going to help bring the body back into balance? And then how do you integrate what you've learned on a retreat, so to speak, back into your regular life? So what I would love for this retreat to look like, as I'm designing it, and we're manifesting that as I'm talking about it, is, to almost have like a short online introduction where you're really teaching about Ayurveda and trying to assess yourself before you go and work with these doctors, so that you come in with a little bit of knowledge, and then you're going to be there for 12 to 14 days to do the actual physical detox. It's complicated to lead because there's a lot of equipment necessary.
Yes.
Everybody needs a bathroom, everybody needs their private facilities. And when you're dealing, especially with American clients, everybody wants luxury. And so like, it's really interesting to marry those two worlds, like Panchakarma, which is really stripping all of the excess, all of the things that are distracting us, and also making people feel comfortable as they heal.
Yeah, I had a pretty big experience. I was able to, with all the ghee and the castor oil, plus there's a lot of preparation, like physically, for the body, with the diet and the ghee and castor oil and enemas.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be, it's a beautiful, beautiful, I would call it like a cleanse, if anything. I just felt so clear after.
Yeah.
I didn't feel weak, like a detox where you think of like, you might be like, I felt cleansed and renewed and refreshed.
Yeah.
And even my skin, I felt like I was just glowing, and I felt very nourished by all the food that you eat during it. So if anyone that is listening has not done it, it's amazing. I always say if I could do one a year, that would be perfection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the dream, is to be able to do one a year.
Yeah.
I used to use Kambo for that,
Mm-hmm.
1 time a year detox, which is a much more extreme.
Mm.
It's a shorter process, but I kind of felt that way after Kambo. Like, felt like everything that was bad for me was kind of removed from my body and my spirit, my mind also.
Oh my gosh. I did it as well. I did not love it. I actually just felt really sick for days, and I never got like that euphoric feeling that people speak of. I never got there. I did just sit with ayahuasca, and that I got there. So, I think medicines speak to, different things speak, but for the combo, I actually just felt poisoned.
Yeah, Kambo was very quick. It was 3 days, and it was a quick process. Like, I was dying, like, in every possible way for 20 to 30 minutes, and then I was good.
Yeah.
It was really powerful. The tobacco purge before the ayahuasca was also like so ill, so ill.
Yeah, I actually was not. So, I was not ill, like vomiting. I did have I was releasing from my bowels, but other than that, I wasn't ill, which was great. It was just spiritual purge. It wasn't actually like bile. But when I did the combo, it was like bile, right? Like bile coming from like the depths of your stomach. I was like, shit, I'm really toxic, I guess.
Yeah, I had to throw my clothes away. It was
So, well, let's back it up a little bit. What brought you into this work? What brought you into wanting to teach others how to heal trauma naturally?
I think it was my own trauma. I think, I grew up in a very toxic household that I normalized and just kind of said, I have an Italian family, and this is what Italians do. Because for all of my friends who had Italian families, they had a lot of very similar dynamics in their homes. And it wasn't until I moved to the city and started teaching and was surrounded by normal people, at least, a lot more normal than what I had experienced, that I realized just how fucked up I was, honestly. And I had a friend of mine who, at the time, I was like living on cigarettes and s'mores, and happy hour and like terrible habits in all ways. And she was just like, you need Bikram yoga. Like you need 30 days in a hot room. You need to clean your shit out and figure out what you're doing with your life because this is not working for you. And I did. And I got hooked. And like, say what you want about the man and even how abusive the practice is and pretty militant. That style of yoga was the first thing that ever really got me out of my head and like into my body and
Bikram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To really sit with my shit and like realize I had a lot of things to work on. And then after that, about 5 years after I started practicing, I did my first yoga teacher training. And within that, you know, you learn like in that first 200 hour, you learn a little bit of everything. And so when we got to the Ayurveda piece, I was just fascinated by it because it made so much sense. Like just, you know, I always felt like I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I know that something's wrong with me. I don't know what it is, you know, and I hate even using that language, like wrong with me, but like, I was definitely feeling broken at that time. And working with Ayurveda and doing the practices as I was in first my 200 hour, and then I eventually went on to the yoga therapy track. It just changed my life, you know, eating at the same time every day, going to sleep at the same time every day, you know, being mindful of what foods I ate when, you know, not doing Soul Cycle in the middle of 105-degree summer in New York City, you know, like things that I always thought I'm like, oh, I just have to work really hard. And if I just keep working really hard, I'm going to get better. And it's like, actually, sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you have to go into restorative and yin, which is what I primarily teach.
Yeah.
You know, so like it taught me how every single thing that I was doing in my life, the time I was putting into my work versus the time I was taking care of my body, you know, how scattered I was, how all over the place I was. I was a single parent. So like, it really helped me heal in a lot of ways. And I, as a teacher, like one of the things that we do as educators, especially in New York City, I don't know if it's this way in other places, but it's like, you can prepare a whole curriculum in the summer, you know, to whatever you're supposed to be teaching in September and find out on August 15th, never mind, you're teaching this grade in this subject and like blow your whole shit up, you know, and have to do everything over. And like, you know, I had done that so many times with so many harder things that I was like, this needs to be as mainstream as astrology. Like people pay so much attention to astrology, which is actually so much more complex. And if you understand your Ayurvedic dosha and you figure out the basics, like you can really change your life. And, you know, I just wanted to bring that to people. I also like was using really toxic skincare and like Bath and Body Works and like all of these things that I was putting on my largest organ.
Yeah.
And I started creating things naturally, working with herbs and essential oils and making my own products. And then I had a friend who had a cut that wouldn't heal. And so I like made something for him and it worked. And I was like, oh, I need to do this. And so it was kind of like, you know, through skincare really and like body care that I started, and then, you know, teaching people the basics of it. And eventually now bringing it into everything I do.
Are you still making products?
Now, when you're on an island with 20% taxes, it's very hard to ship. You know, everything would have to be so expensive that it would just not make it accessible to people. If I decide to build a brick and mortar here, which is something I've been thinking about, like having, you know, a space to do things. Then I may go back into that world because then it's not about shipping. Because I love creating. I love working with my hands. I love doing it for myself. I love doing it for my family. But it's just like packaging, labels, shipping, all of that stuff. That's not
the business side of it then becomes, you know, it's like maybe just bring them for your retreats, right? Yeah. Make some things and yeah.
Absolutely do that.
So let's dive into like healing without medicine because we both love herbs. And I've learned so much about myself from Ayurvedic medicine and how I need to eat certain foods and why I cannot eat certain foods and how I have to mix my foods and all those things. How do you work with clients to help them kind of understand that they can heal themselves naturally with food or, you know, the Ayurvedic dosha paradigm, I guess, or
so what I do now, which is I really started doing it this way about a year ago when I started teaching astrology also, was I offer elemental assessments in the beginning. So instead of like just a natal chart reading or just a dosha assessment, I kind of do them both together so that they can see the elements through the lens of something that they may already be familiar with, and like understand, because like most people know like what Aries means, like the fire and the anger and the rage and like or like the power and the showing up. You can look at that also through the lens of the solar plexus chakra. You can also look at that through the lens of Pitta. So like there are all these things that we already know and recognize. I kind of marry them to the Ayurvedic pieces so that they can see, this is how this shows up in your natal chart, and this is how it shows up in your Ayurvedic dosha. So now that you know that you have all this fire in all of these different ways, what are some ways that we can balance that? And I always start with eating, sleeping, and water. And like for most of my clients, if we can just get those 3 things down, it's like a lifetime of change, honestly. Then we move on to movement. What are the movement practices that they're engaging in? How late are they staying up on their phones or in front of their computer? What's their work schedule? And for some people, it's really hard because like, okay, if I have a client who is a doctor or a nurse, like those hours are insane. So like, how can I possibly, get them to change their life? Like, do I quit my job as a doctor or a nurse? Do I quit my dissertation program? Like, that's not an option. So what are the things that you have room in your life to change? And sometimes that means having conversations with your children, the people you're in relationships with, your bosses, setting really supportive boundaries for yourself, like work stays at work, and maybe even if you're used to taking work home, you can't do that anymore. People have to decide how much they're willing to sacrifice to be healthy, because the truth is, like, if you keep going in the same way that you've been going and you're sick, you're only going to get sicker. And so, when people see the changes that happen just with sleep patterns or just with water or just with, eliminating, soft drinks or something like that, then they're more inclined to do other things. They have some evidence that they can trust you, and then they'll continue to try something else. I have had clients, who are very used to Western medicine and are very much like, I say, I need you to do this for 28 days, and they do it for 2 days, and they're like, no, this isn't working. That's probably the hardest part, is that, a pill can make my headache go away in 30 minutes or less, but a practice takes time, and you have to be patient, and you have to be willing to commit to it. And the truth is, like, if you are willing to commit to the thing, if first of all, if you invest in me, you've paid me, like, you should listen to me. That's kind of the first thing. I'm not cheap. So, like, if you are going to invest in this kind of healing, it's kind of like, if you pay to go on vacation, you're not going to sit in a room all day at a beautiful resort. You're going to go outside, you're going to enjoy all the amenities. That's what you paid for. I kind of try to explain to my clients, like, think of me as like an investment in a vacation. Like, if you show up to the gym every morning, if you, drink your however many glasses of water are appropriate for you, if you turn your computer off an hour earlier every night, just do it for me for a little while and see if you notice anything. It gets them to a place where they feel like they can continue. It's also why I force people to do 6 months. I don't do like short coaching. When I first started, I was like, sure, I'll do 3 sessions or 2 months or whatever. I don't do that, because it really does take time, and
Oh, absolutely. It's a lifestyle shift.
whole.
I mean, one-offs don't even exist when it comes to your health. You have to, every morning I'm like, first thing I try and get early morning sunlight. It's like early morning sunlight, celery juice, warm water, meditation. Like, you've got to put in the work. And I don't think that people realize that there's work that's involved if you're trying to heal yourself naturally, spirit, mind, and body. Just like going to the gym, you have to do the work. You've got to go on the medicine trips every once in a while when the body needs it and you're feeling called. You got to go to the gym, you got to work out, you got to eat well. Like,
We're so used to quick fixes, like
mhm.
Ozempic drives me insane. Like all of these tools that are so, we're so quick to use them because it's like, well, this will work fast, and it's a lot better to do this than do this for 6 months. It's like, you have to really convince people that quick fixes are never the right answer. Like, it's never long-term, results. It's always, usually, I shouldn't say always, but usually there's when you're working with Western medicine, when you go and get your body done, when you do all of these things that make it much easier, there's side effects, and there's, other types of trauma that are coming along with that. So for some people, I have like severe issues with my spine, and medical intervention
Yeah.
is absolutely necessary. Like I would be paralyzed if I didn't have surgery, so there's always room for Western medicine, but
Yes.
there's room for marrying it with Eastern medicine whenever possible. If I drink enough water every day and make sure that I'm never starving, I'm not going to get headaches. If I'm, not eating because I just get up in the morning and I start working right away and I forget to eat until 2 p.m., I get headaches. So like, there's a clear answer there. That is very simple. That, if you continue to take ibuprofen, you end up with a bleeding ulcer, which is something that had also happened to me in the past with meds in my back. So, it's like you have to have evidence for them. Like, this is what this path will offer you, and this is what this path will offer you, and which of those would you like? And you really have to make it their choice, because for some people, if you've got 3 kids running around, a husband to feed, you're playing all of the roles in your home. A lot of my women clients are like, how am I ever going to have time to do this? And I'm like, you have to ask for support, and then it teaches them to ask for support in other ways. Then it's like, oh, you mean I can ask for help? So many people won't ask for help. So it becomes a whole other conversation that doesn't sound like it's about Ayurveda or yoga, but boundaries are very much about Ayurveda and yoga, because if you don't have boundaries, if you overindulge in anything, body, mind, and spirit, you're going to create disease.
Disease.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm on a health journey myself. I mean, I have a hormonal nutrition degree. I've studied Ayurveda, and I got mold. And I got exposed to mold and mycotoxins and couldn't figure out. I was like, shit, am I going through perimenopause? Like, I'm at that age. I was confused for a while, like what exactly is happening? And my functional medicine practitioner was like, something's not right here. And we found out that I was exposed to black mold, which then exacerbated my Epstein-Barr. And I was like, whoa. So I'm on like a 5-month detox right now from heavy metals and all my toxins. Also doing some nourishing too with tinctures
Yeah.
to keep my body and the antiviral load down. But so I share this only because I think that there's also this whole other piece, right? Where we're living in a world that's like work fast. I'm so happy you left Florida and went back to the island. Like that is like such a good move for where you need to be like in alignment with that flow and be by the sea, and the water, and how we are taught to work, 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 work. And I was just reading, this was crazy, it's a little sidebar, but today it's like, be aware of the air quality all over New York. And I'm like, what? I live like farther enough from the city on a lake. And it was about pollutants and paint, VOCs in the air.
That's really interesting. I was going to say, is it about the Canadian fires?
No, it was talking about VOCs that come from like paint and some other things with sunlight can become extremely toxic. Like, because, it's been sunny the past couple of days. And I was like, where is this coming from? And it's coming from exhausts, vehicles, and these VOCs. And I was thinking, where would those be coming from in particular, unless they know that there was a spill or something of that nature?
Yeah.
And you could actually see in the air, it's not clean and clear.
Wow.
And so I share this because there's so many things that are out of our control.
Yeah.
And it's so important that we put our health. I always say, like, health is your wealth. Without your health, you have nothing. And you have to put your health first and do all these things and put in the work, because look at all these things that we have environmentally that we can't control.
We're dealing right now with like a huge wave of sargassum, which is like a
yeah
of seaweed.
Yeah.
And there's so many toxic chemicals in the sea that it's bringing all of those toxic chemicals with flesh-eating bacteria. So
Yes.
people are coming to Punta Cana to go on vacation, and they're going in the water. They're like, it's just seaweed. It's natural. It's not going to hurt us. And they're going home and ending up with these really severe infections and hospitalized. It's really scary. And, you can't avoid it. It's nature, but if it was just nature and it wasn't all of this pollution in our oceans, and we have the ocean and the Caribbean Sea here. So,
Yes.
it's really unfortunate because we're here to be in the ocean. We're here to be in the water, and it could even, you can smell it from my house, and I'm about 5 minutes from the beach. And sometimes you go outside and you can actually smell it. It's rough.
I know when we were living in Tulum for the winters that it was always a thing. And I've actually stopped going there because I just don't like I do my retreats, but I don't go there for the winters anymore because it's overpopulated. It's not in alignment. They're building a railroad that's like hurting the cenotes. Like, I'm like, this is no longer aligned with something that I'm going to put my energy and money towards. So I can't be a part of this. It's moving towards becoming like another playa
Yeah.
or Cancun.
Yeah. It's really unfortunate.
And that was my magical place since 2010 that like nobody knew about.
I mean, so many of the beaches here are no longer public. It's taken over by these huge conglomerate hotels. The North Coast used to be where people kind of escaped to. It didn't have like any of the big resorts. Now they're putting a Four Seasons and a St. Regis and
Oh, wow.
There's an Amanera up there. So, they're taking over.
They're taking over.
The hotelier.
Okay, let's switch gears. Let's talk about your stint on reality TV.
Okay.
What
do you want to know?
I don't know. What do you want to share? Right? I don't want to put you in the hot seat.
Yeah, sure. I
What
feel
are
like
lessons?
I think that you have to be an unbelievably grounded person to enter into this world, because it doesn't matter how likable or how normal you think you are. It's television, and when you're making television, you are making what people are attracted to, and unfortunately we live in a culture that people are attracted to, like drama and chaos and toxicity. And so even though my relationship was tough for sure, but having to do these things in like this pressure cooker of a reality television show was really, really challenging. And then I think, I experienced some really terrible things with my husband, and I filmed 3 seasons back to back. And the way that they did the story arc, because they knew that, it was basically like the first season, it was like really light and easy. The second season, I'm the villain. And the third season, he's the villain. And the second season, I'm being portrayed on television as like this terrible human, and I'm experiencing these terrible things that he's doing. And it's like, I couldn't say anything. So it was like creating even more trauma, because it's like I'm getting it from my relationship, but I'm also getting it from it felt like the
public,
right? And the internet is particularly hard on reality TV characters because they assume like, oh, this is all your real life. And, this 15 minutes showcases your whole relationship. And, it really, even though, you can say, oh, none of it bothers me, it doesn't impact me. It is impossible to, first of all, be having a good day every day. And like, if I happen to have a bad day for whatever reason, it could be that I didn't have hot water in my shower, whatever it is. Like there's something that might set me off. And at the same time, I see a comment or a thread or someone sends me a terrible message. It's like, it's very, very hard not to react and not to internalize it. And when I say that like reality television was the best self-development I've ever done, it was better than any course I've ever taken. It was better than any mentor I've ever had. It was like, because you literally have a mirror of the worst parts of yourself, all of the shadows that we don't want to see of ourselves. That's what they're going to show, because that's the crazy parts.
Yeah.
So it's like, in some ways it was really hard and really traumatizing, but everybody always asks, would you ever do it again? It feels like it was so bad for you. And I'm like, absolutely, because it's accountability. It really does. If you are objective enough and honest with yourself enough to be able to see, yeah, I was an asshole in that moment. Like I really shouldn't have spoken to him that way. Or maybe I should have thought about this a little bit, more thoughtfully, or not have been so impulsive, or maybe I should have seen these red flags, or whatever it is. There is some pieces of that. And I always say, if something really triggers you, it's because there's something about it that you believe. There's something about, if someone says, oh, you look like an orangutan, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like what, I don't even know, what would that even look like? Like that wouldn't impact me. But when someone's like, you're always yelling at him, it's like, am I always yelling at him? Like I am kind of seeing, me always yelling at him.
Yeah.
Responding to him that way. So like you have to be objective. You have to be in therapy. Absolutely. You have to, make sure that you stay out of the comment sections as much as possible and kind of only deal with the stuff that comes directly to you. I used to be about like, well, all engagement is good engagement. It doesn't bother me. I'll fight with everybody. I don't care. But, now I'm a little bit more apt to just block. As soon as I see that you're not here for reasons, you are not aligned with the work that I'm doing in the world.
Yeah. Protect your peace. Yeah. Protect your peace at all costs. That's what I wanted to ask you, because I know that you have this side of you that is so deeply rooted and grounded in doing this work, and then this other side. And I was like, wow, that must have been a real duality, right? and kind of like, thank God you know how to do the work, right? And you're doing the work so you could stay rooted in it. But it must have been very interesting, right? As things were coming up.
Oh yeah. Everybody's like, why would you do this in the business that you're in? Like, isn't this like the exact opposite of the work that you do? And the truth is, it's really not. Because if we're truthful, if I'm truly selling shadow work, I'm truly selling healing. I'm very much, I'm a believer that we're always healing something. Like as you solve this problem, this other thing now has the space to come up that you can work towards. And when you're done with all of those things, that's when you no longer have to be on this earth anymore.
Yes.
If anything, it just kind of accelerated my own healing process because, it was a lot. But one of the things that I do is I show up live on some platform almost every day of my life, either Instagram or TikTok. I make sure that people can see the real me. Because like there's a lot of that side of me and that character out there. And, part of it is also a character. That is something that I have to be honest about. But, I want people to see that this person and this person can actually coexist. And I bet they coexist in you too. I bet if I took cameras into your home and watched every argument you had with your husband, or every time, your kid pissed you off, or every time, like your boss, said something in a way that wasn't super respectful, like I promise we wouldn't see all of these amazing sides of you. There would be times where you'd be like, I wish nobody saw that, And so I think that, first of all, there's nothing that anybody could say or do to me that could possibly be worse than what's already out there. Whatever, like I never have to worry about anyone like exposing skeletons or anything like that. Like they did that first season. There's nothing left. But it's also like, I really try to tell people like, okay, this is what you saw on TV. Why do you think when I'm in that role, I'm behaving that way? What do you see in that? What do you think is causing that? What is it about his behavior? What is it about my conditioning, my trauma? Like I use it as a tool to talk about relationships. And I actually now watch all of the shows, like all of the 90-day series, and I talk about all of them because it is really interesting to see like, wow, we see this theme come up a lot. Why does this theme always come up in this particular show, in this, spinoff? Because there's 12 of them. It's also, a place to talk about politics, which is something that is very important to me. So like I really use reality TV as a tool to talk about the work that I do because it's something that everybody's it's accessible to everyone. You don't have to know about Ayurveda, but if while you're watching me lose my shit over and over and over again, and anger is like my primary emotion, that's the fire. you
Yeah.
know?
Let's talk doshas.
Like, that's my Scorpio sun, Aries moon, Sag rising. Of course, that's how I'm going to respond in that moment. Like, what would you expect after I've been filming for 14 hours and 100 degrees with no air
Yeah.
conditioning?
I mean, what I like about it so much is that, well, one, there's a ton of freedom. You must feel like there's a lot of freedom in this because it's like, listen, people have seen it all.
Yeah.
But it's very important to show the real shit because what I really hate, I'm sure you do too, is like, oh, my life is perfect. And like people are putting these things on. Like I've been holistic health coaching for like 12 years and I'm like, hey guys, I did a live and I was like, I'm struggling. Like I'm struggling with my health. Like I know what to do and I'm struggling. Like this is what's happening, blah, 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 blah. And I think it's so important for people to be relatable and for people to see like it's like yes and.
Yeah.
You don't have to be sitting there in your Kundalini gear at all times, right? In all whites and your headdress. You can also be this and this. These two things can exist simultaneously. And I think that what I see a lot in the healing world is, quite frankly, a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of like gaslighting and a lot of pretending that things are perfect. And I feel like part of my journey and my voice is just to be really authentic. Like it has not been easy, but it does get easier. Right. And, I feel like I want to share more about like, you can transmute, you can alchemize. Like, let's talk soul alchemy. Like, this is fucking real, like your soul came here for a reason to have all these triggers and lessons. And then here you are turning that darkness into light, like that is the magic of what we're doing here with healing.
Yeah.
And, I just online, I just see a lot of, there's a lot of, oh my God, my life is perfect. And I have to check myself too. I'm like, oh, I got to be, like, what am I saying out there? Or what is this real looking like? Everything's perfect. Actually, it was shit 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. No, it's really true. And that's, I try to show up as myself every single day.
You definitely do. That's why we connected. I was like, you're just yourself.
I really am. And, sometimes I'm like, I have no patience for the people in the live who are running their mouths. And sometimes I do. And sometimes, I experience something really terrible and I have a bad day and I'm honest about that. People, when they know that like my husband and I are not in a good place, because we really do publicize our lives. We cook together on TikTok, and we're always very real. Like if we're mad at each other, he's like cooking on his live and I'm cooking on my live and they're like, what's wrong with you guys today? And it's like, we're very honest about what's happening because we already have so much experience being honest. And it's like, what's worse can people say about us? But it also like people even appreciate that. They're like, oh, but you guys were fine yesterday. And I'm like, yes, welcome to marriage. Like this is kind of what it's like. And we, especially us, we have these crazy cultural differences, that where he comes from and where I come from could not be two more opposite places. Our spiritual backgrounds, our cultural backgrounds, like everything is different. And so like we show the honesty of that. And I appreciate he's come around a lot. He was always like, why are you talking about this in front of the cameras? I'm like, that's why they're here. Like that's the whole reason the cameras are here. What do you think we were going to talk about? We're making television. Like he didn't even know what reality TV was. He thought we were making a movie. He thought I was some famous actress that came with these cameras. Like he had no frame of reference. He at that time didn't have a TV in his house. So like he, here I am growing up with like Real World and Jersey Shore and like all of these shows. And he's like, what is this? And then people were talking about on the internet. The whole family was mad. They're like, why did you talk about this? I'm like, you guys were all here with the cameras. Like you saw the 40-person film crew. What did you think they were doing?
Yeah.
It really has. Now it's been a minute. So like everybody gets it now. But now it's like, even though we finished filming like a couple of years ago, it just aired in like Brazil and Colombia and all these Spanish speaking countries. So now all of the social media around it is in Spanish. So now the whole family is
getting into it.
And they're like, oh my God, this happened. I'm like, I can't. Where have you been? Like I told you it happened. You didn't believe me. So it's it feels like I'll be asked about Johan for the rest of my life. Like it feels like I'll be asked about the butcher shop for the rest of my life because, you know, streaming is forever. It's no longer like you have to wait for things to go to syndication. So, you know, it really is. I answer the same 20 questions every time I, you know, start a TikTok live because it's always new people, you know, so it can be exhausting, that part of it. But, you know, I probably answer things differently every time too.
All right. Now tell me the best unexpected lesson that you got from reality TV and your least favorite lesson that you learned.
Okay. The best lesson that I got was how my anxiety and my nervousness shows up as anger. Because
Interesting.
a lot of times, either with the producers or with Johan, you know, whenever I was very, very anxious, it would look like I was really mad. And like seeing that, it took a minute for me to watch a few episodes where I saw that. And I was like, I'm not actually angry in that moment. I'm like very anxious about like, how am I going to make this happen? You know, it's not like anger with you that you don't have the money. It's like, yeah, I know you don't have the money. So that means I have to figure it out. And that makes me very anxious. You know, like I understand that you don't, I know it, but like, so that was really eye-opening and very important because it gives me a place to talk to people about that. Like, you know, when I see myself going in that direction, I take a step back and I'm like, sorry, Sid, you know, like, I'm really not upset with you. I don't mean to raise my voice. It's just that this is making me very anxious because I'm worried about this thing. It gives me a place to kind of prepare people that might show up for them. It's also living with CPTSD, you know, like that anxiety is just, it's constantly living in the body and it's a constant healing process. I think that my least favorite lesson, you know, I don't know if this is because it's still an important one, but it's the one that doesn't make me feel so great about myself. Like I am kind of a diva, like in a lot of ways that are, I wouldn't expect myself to be. Like I consider it having boundaries. Like I'm like, what do you mean you work 12-hour days? What do you mean, you know, I don't get hair and makeup? What do you mean you want me to do this tell-all when I'm supposed to be in Tibet? Like all of these things that I was just like, no, absolutely not, I'm not doing that. And they're like, are you kidding me? Like you can't say no, you can't do this. And it's like, I had to kind of make choices to not be a jerk and kind of be a little bit more flexible because like some of the things were hard no's for me, but some of the things I could have been more flexible about. But like my nervousness to not show up a certain way or worrying about my image or worrying about being taken advantage of, sometimes that made me difficult to work with. And that is something that shows up anytime I have to work for people, which is one of the reasons I started my own business.
Yeah. I hear you. I get it. I might be right there with you. I'm pretty difficult.
Yeah. I kind of want things the way that I want them.
Yeah. And that's why we are forces of nature. And this is why we create our own things so we can call the shots. I don't think there's anything wrong with that if you know that's your flow. Like that's how I am. And, you know, it was so funny. I did a retreat with somebody and I was like, I just know that I just got to do this on my own. Like unless it's like a really great partnership and we're super aligned, like I like to lead. Like you know, so I think that I'm better just leading. And so you just have to know those things about yourself. And you know what? Especially I think in reality TV, I think it's really good for you to have your boundaries because as you know, they can take advantage of you or, you know, show you in ways that aren't intended. And that's the other thing. Like they edit you into like a small little tiny like highlight reel and you don't even get the full context of who you are. So, well, I think you're brave. I think you're brave because I don't know. I say I would do it. I don't know if I would because I'd be like, I'd want to control everything.
Yes. Yes. Well, you have to be the Kardashians. You have to produce.
Yes. I need to control. I would be like
footage. You can put it all together. You can plug your brands in. Like it just becomes this cycle. That's the way to do it. But like,
yes,
you see it until the rest of the world does. And here it doesn't air. So I actually can't watch anything here until the next day after everyone else does. Here comes Gizmo.
Here he comes. We were wondering when you were going to show up.
I can't really see anything, so I don't really know how I'm being portrayed until someone tells me. So
You're like, oh, like, yeah, no. Well, you know what? Sometimes it's better to live in bliss. I choose bliss. So, as we wrap up here, tell folks where they can check you out online, learn all about your upcoming retreats, learn to work with you, and all the amazing things that you got going on.
yeah, so the easiest way to find me is through my Instagram or TikTok handles. They're both the same. It's Live Yinsa, Liveyinsa. And then my link in bio has all of the things that I do. Bali, I have a double room left. It is August 1st to the 10th, and everything is included. So that I would love, to find to align people to come with me. And I'm also leading a retreat leader course that is basically a training program to teach people how to lead a Yinsa retreat specifically, to try and get people to come with me on scouting trips and co-lead retreats in the future, so that if I do decide that I'm going to do 7 retreats a year, I have some help doing that. So that's what I'm working on.
Absolutely. And our final question, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
When are you going to stop pretending?
Ooh, fucking good.
Yeah, she wrote Absolute Beauty, and which was the foundational text for my Ayurveda studies and skincare. And it was the first thing she said to me. She saw right through me. Like, it was unbelievable. And that's the power of Ayurveda.
Mm,
I was so drawn to it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So let's close it out there because I want that to really stick with folks. When are you going to stop pretending?
Yeah.
Check out the links, everybody. Thank you so much, Danielle, for being here. It's always a good time chatting with you and seeing what you're up to. You're always up to so many fun things. And guys, make sure you check out all of the links that will be in the show notes. And you can always reach out to Danielle directly and let her know that you caught her here on the Divine Lifestyles podcast. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Divine Lifestyles podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your episodes. If you really loved this episode, screenshot it and share it on social media. It will help us to continue to make an impact. With gratitude and love always, keep illuminating your path.